Why is female pleasure still treated as a taboo? Why does the very mention of women exploring their own bodies send waves of discomfort across cultures, families, and even entire institutions? And more importantly, why, after thousands of years of progress, do so many women still feel shame for something so profoundly human? Today we're going to peel back the layers of silence, stigma, and power to uncover the hidden history, the science, and the philosophy behind one of humanity's most misunderstood realities: why women masturbate. This is not a video about scandal. It's not about shock value. It's about autonomy. It's about freedom. It's about the politics of desire and what it means to truly own one's body. And if you watch until the end, you'll not only understand why this subject matters, but you'll see how this story is about much more than women. It's about all of us and the fight for dignity and freedom. Before we start, if you believe taboo topics deserve truth, subscribe right now. Join this community where silence ends and real conversations begin. Part 1. A History Written in Shame. To understand why female masturbation is controversial, we have to go back thousands of years, because the suppression of female pleasure is not new. It has been written into the very fabric of history. In ancient Greece, philosophers like Aristotle saw women as imperfect men. He described the female body as passive, designed to receive but not to act. In this worldview, a woman seeking her own pleasure was unnatural. It threatened the neatly ordered roles of husband and wife, master and subordinate. Yet Greek culture wasn't monolithic. Some texts from the Hellenistic period describe women using aphrodisiacs or speak about desire with less shame. Still, the official philosophy, the one that shaped law and custom, painted women's sexuality as a danger when uncontrolled. Fast forward to the Middle Ages. The Church became the most powerful force in shaping sexual morality. Manuals known as penitentials listed sins and punishments, including acts of female masturbation. A woman who touched herself was not simply seen as sinful, she was accused of being dangerous to the moral order. Doctors and clerics in medieval Europe believed that women who indulged in self-pleasure risked becoming witches, possessed, or hysterical. And in this period, the obsession with control wasn't just symbolic, it was brutal. Countless women accused of sexual deviance were punished, imprisoned, or even executed. By the Victorian era, science joined religion in policing women's bodies. Physicians described female masturbation as a disease of the nerves. Some prescribed terrifying treatments, from clitoridotomies to confinement in asylums. For women, to even admit to desire was to risk social exile. But here's the question: was this really about morality, or was it about power? Subscriber call. If you see the connection between control and silence, hit subscribe right now, because this channel is dedicated to exposing the truths history tried to bury. Part 2. The Psychology of Self-Pleasure. When we strip away stigma, what does science actually say? Why do women masturbate? The answers are simple, deeply human, and often universal. Stress relief. Studies show that self-pleasure triggers the release of dopamine and oxytocin, brain chemicals that lower stress, calm the nervous system, and promote feelings of safety. Sleep and pain management. Orgasms help regulate cortisol levels and increase relaxation, improving sleep and even reducing menstrual cramps. Self-discovery. For many women, masturbation is a way to learn what feels good, building confidence in intimacy and communication with partners. Autonomy and healing. Survivors of trauma often report using self-pleasure as a way to reclaim ownership of their bodies, shifting from shame to empowerment. Yet despite the science, stigma lingers. Women around the world still whisper about it, still feel guilt, still hide this truth. Why? Because when a woman discovers she does not need permission for pleasure, she is harder to control. This is why the politics of pleasure matter. Part 3. The Politics of Desire. Here's the truth. The taboo around women's masturbation was never about health. It was never about sin. It was about ownership of bodies. Patriarchy demanded that women's sexuality be tied to reproduction and marriage. A woman who could experience pleasure on her own terms was unpredictable, uncontrollable, and resistant to being owned. Self-pleasure became a quiet rebellion, a form of autonomy no law, husband, or institution could fully suppress. As philosopher Michel Foucault famously argued, power operates by regulating sexuality. By controlling desire, society controls freedom itself. So when a woman masturbates, she is not committing sin. She is committing an act of resistance. She is saying, "This body belongs to me." Subscriber Paul. If this perspective resonates with you, don't just watch, subscribe. Join this community where truth is power and knowledge is liberation. Part 4. Myths and Cultural Taboos. Let's break down a few myths still whispered today. Only lonely women do it. False. Research shows that women in relationships often masturbate just as frequently, sometimes even more. It's unhealthy or addictive. False. Medical studies debunk this entirely. In moderation, it's part of a healthy sex life. It makes women less pure. Purity is not a scientific concept. It's a cultural invention, one used for centuries to control women's freedom. Every myth traces back not to biology, but to control. The silence, the shame, the taboo. They are not natural. They are constructed. Part 5. A Philosophical Reframing. So what does philosophy tell us about desire and self-pleasure? Existentialists like Sartre would argue that it is an expression of radical freedom, to act without permission, to claim one's body as a project of selfhood. Simone de Beauvoir saw women's liberation as the rejection of being defined by men. Female self-pleasure embodies this liberation, a woman choosing herself. In feminist thinkers like Audre Lorde describe pleasure as power, a source of strength for resistance. In this sense, masturbation is not about shame. It is about freedom, self-respect, and radical autonomy. Part 6. Healing Shame, Reclaiming Freedom. Shame is inherited. It's passed down through silence, through jokes, through religion and tradition. Millions of women still feel guilt when they choose themselves. But shame is not destiny. Healing begins by naming the truth, by saying pleasure is human, desire is natural, and autonomy is not a sin, it's a right. Every time a woman rejects shame, she steps closer to freedom. And in that freedom lies dignity, confidence, and the possibility of real self-respect. Subscriber call. If you believe shame ends where truth begins, hit subscribe. Let's grow this community into a space where silence is broken and freedom is celebrated. So why do women masturbate? Not because of loneliness, not because of weakness, but because they are human. Because pleasure is a form of healing, of autonomy, of freedom. This is not a scandal. It's a story of liberation. And maybe it's a story of all of us. Because when we reclaim desire, we reclaim life itself.